at your unit economics if you're doing something like this. Do not go crazy with a discount because you think it'll get people in the fold, because if you already have this successful funnel, try to think of your unit economics and your COGS as like, if everyone going through this funnel in the past month had purchased this upsell, would that tank me as a business? So definitely think about that when you are putting this together, but you want it to be right on that kind of fine line for your business and your product where it's like juicy enough to get people excited and not the common like, oh, take 10%, because everyone knows that's sort of a welcome offer and nothing special.
Content from real people equals instant credibility for your brand. Consumers today crave real connections with real people, and they're guarded about who they'll trust. Highly polished, branded content simply doesn't cut it anymore. Let MiniSocial build a network of powerful micro-influencers around your brand who all know and love your products. They'll create something compelling that resonates with their audience and deliver it directly to you for use across all your marketing channels. Yeah, that includes ads. Meet millennials and Gen Zers where they're already hanging out, in the feeds of their favorite influencers, and get started with MiniSocial. It's all killer, no filler. I'm Eric, and today I'm back with Aves, Pilothouse's creative team. Talk a little bit about upsells. Why are upsells so important right now?
Always very important, particularly in this season of e-commerce. I think it's a difficult task to get more people interested in buying something. So upsells are particularly important during sort of not Q4, when you're not just like driving a ton of new top of funnel traffic, to really refine this skill of taking someone who's maybe already in the funnel even, or some of the rare or new customers that you'll acquire during this period of time, and turning that one conversion into maybe two. So it's all about getting really efficient with the traffic that you are driving at this time of year.
It costs so much to get people into your funnel, so when they're there, you might as well. And that's maybe the most engaged they'll be with your brand, depending on how they do. So you might as well up the value there as much as you can.
Totally.
So it's funny, I came from the info space a little bit before this, and upsells and downsells, there's a, taking me back to my ClickFunnels days. But in the context of e-commerce, just for people who are maybe not familiar, just walk us through like what is exactly an upsell?
So an upsell is the act of taking someone who's already making a purchase and getting them to buy something else on top of that, or upgrade to like a swankier version of that thing. So I feel like old school, maybe like brick and mortar sales, upselling is like you're selling someone a car and then instead you give them like a slightly better sound system in that car or something. I just
bought a backpack at Mountain Warehouse at the mall, and when I get up there, it's like the whole cashier center is gamified to the point where it was like, when you make this purchase now, because you've done that, you've unlocked that everything on this wall behind me is 50% off. Look at all the socks you could buy. So it's basically like buy more when you're buying.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the classic kind of like impulsy things that they keep at the counter where it's like, well, might as well, exactly like you were saying, when the cashiers give you the whole like song and dance of like, well, you're spending over 50, so you could get this calendar that you would never want to use once like, for $5.
That's the active upsell. The passive upsell is where they may just make you walk through a gauntlet of crazy crap.
The maze in Sephora of just like
crazy
little samples. Crap. Yeah, so that's the like old school version of it. Obviously, when we're talking e-commerce, we're keeping it young and hip with the kids. So we're talking DTC, buying things online. So it obviously looks a little bit different because you can't do like a passive upsell. You can't kind of force people to walk a certain way, but you can force them to visit certain pages. So that's sort of how we go about it from like a DTC point of view. But typically like an upsell for like an e-commerce brand, it's either going to be, like I said, adding that additional product, or sometimes it's promoting bundles as well. For the sake of today, because those are two like monumental topics, we're just going to talk about single SKU upsells, because bundling, we'll probably do a full series on like the trauma I've endured when it comes to bundling and the like knowledge I have to share. But single SKU, it's nice and easy, and it's also like mad efficient. It's a really good way to do it.
I like this. We're future pacing for our bundle episode down the line, focusing on single SKUs. Now, where in the process are you offering these upsells? Is this post-purchase or pre-purchase?
Pre-purchase is what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to talk about, just really taking that traffic that's already coming in, they're already piping hot, they're ready to make a purchase, and just making a little bit more on them rather than sometimes with a post-purchase upsell. That's when you can get a bit like zanier, I guess is a good word, and not maybe recommend those like lower AOV bundle cart building products, but rather things that are a little bit more like suited to that person. So if they bought a shirt, a good post-purchase upsell is maybe your best-selling pants, but pre-purchase is like, well, you're buying a shirt, so here's some socks at a discount because they're just kind of slightly living in the same space. So yeah, talking today mostly about those like really juicy, really tantalizing, like you'd be crazy not to take this offer type of single SKU upsells.
100%. So when do you suggest that brands start thinking about adding an upsell?
Yeah, don't do it if you don't know how to sell the thing that you sell well. This is a really common issue that I see like either like in audit phases or new clients coming through the door where it's like, okay, let's take the shaky foundation that we have of having a funnel that works relatively well sometimes for this product and try to upsell. Kind of a like famously bad idea to not know how to sell something and then try to sell someone that thing plus another thing never really works. So once you have a funnel that consistently converts, and I like to have a funnel that's dedicated to one product. So you might have like your top campaign on Facebook might be like really broad and it just runs to best sellers. That's a really tricky place to try to do an upsell. Where it really tends to work is if you have like a single hero product or just something that works really well on Meta, adding a single SKU upsell to a situation like that is sort of ideal and the safest place to do it. If you're not there yet, it just sort of muddies the water. So you can be trying to test how to, get people to convert on this one thing, and then you throw in the second thing, and it just gets really confusing and kind of gross.
Very cool. So you got to have a solid foundation. If I thought about it like, yeah, if I wasn't buying something already at Winners and you asked me to go through that gate of upsells, I'd be like, what the heck am I even doing here?
Yeah.
So you got to make sure they're there for a good reason already and are really bought in on your offer.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
You don't want to lose them. Can you lose? Like what's the, I guess you're just looking at your metrics to see, like, do people just ignore upsells, or is there the risk of actually losing them from the sale entirely because you're offering them an upsell?
Totally. I think you start to get into that dangerous ground of losing them completely when you don't know how to sell that initial product.
100%.
I typically don't see it, and you, would be able to see it very clearly through testing. Like if I have this funnel that works really well for a specific product, add an upsell, obviously if that starts to tank, that's going to tell me the upsell's like kind of spooking people away. But yeah, I've never seen it once I have like a really clear sort of journey for someone, adding that little extra bit, especially because it tends to be a deal, right? Like it tends to be like, add this to your cart and you're going to save like 10 or more % off. I'm thinking of that gif of like that moose taking off its hooves and then like kind of twinkling its fingers. I think that's kind of the experience people have where it's like, oh shoot, I already wanted to buy this thing. You're going to give me this other little treat, this other little carrot that you're dangling.
I feel like I know most gifts. That sounds totally foreign to me. So I'm eager to track that one down.
Yeah, if this is like, we should edit it in now. I've never said that. I've never really gone meta on this podcast.
Broke the fourth wall.
Let's edit it in. Everyone let us know. Do you know this GIF? Is it familiar to you? I don't know what it's from, but yeah, it's a little.
Okay, back to single SKU upsells. Walk me through the anatomy of a successful single SKU upsell.
Totally. Yeah, I have a good kind of like frame of reference because I've recently seen this work quite well on an account. So we had a very successful funnel for a bundle that we actually put together with the full intention of boosting AOV. And it was doing that. And then I was getting a bit greedy and it was doing it very well, boosting AOV, boosting conversion rate. So I was like, let's add something else that lives in the same realm, like is in the same vertical, makes sense that they're not necessarily purchasing them together all the time, but they would buy this thing. Added it for a nice juicy discount, added it to a very successful landing page that we already had as a call out in the hero space of just like everything was intact from the original way that page looked. We just added a sub headline that said like limited time offer. You can also click here and you will get this secondary product at a steep discount. And then didn't mention it again until the offer section of that page. So we kept the like information about the original product, the one that people are actually interested in. That was all fully intact. It's kind of a long form page. And then at the very end, swooped in again, and it was like, hey, not saying it like clearly, but like it would be so silly and so stupid if you didn't buy this other thing when you're buying this because we're giving it to you for such a good price, but only if you buy this other thing first. So that's like a very classic way to do it on a landing page. And what was really interesting about this sort of case study too is it did increase earnings per click pretty measurably, but we could also then take that and start bringing it to the pre-click side of things. So then it becomes this like monster where it's also now probably going to increase click-through rate because we've got this like really juicy offer going on for people. So when you have it on a page like that as sort of a like kind of a bundle, but it is a single SKU upsell, you can start advertising it as well, where like classic Shopify apps for in-cart upsells, while they're great and you can show a lot of different products that way, it doesn't like empower you or embolden you to take it to pre-click. And people definitely obviously like, if you see an ad that has a juicy deal, you're going to click on it rather than one that doesn't.
When you say juicy, 20, 30%, what's 40%? What's juicy?
I usually like advise that people go over the like 15%. And obviously I did have like some notes jotted down before this too, is it's really important to look at your unit economics if you're doing something like this. Do not go crazy with a discount because you think it'll get people in the fold, because if you already have this successful funnel, try to think of your unit economics and your COGS as like, if everyone going through this funnel in the past month had purchased this upsell, would that totally tank my EBITDA? Like, would that tank me as a business? So definitely think about that when you are putting this together, but you want it to be right on that kind of fine line for your business and your product where it's like juicy enough to get people excited, and not the common like, oh, take 10%, because everyone knows that's sort of a welcome offer and nothing special.
And then pre-click on the landing page, are you linking that product to an add to cart functionality that then unlocks the discount? Is that how that works on the landing page?
Yeah. So when you do it on the landing page side, it just basically sends them directly to checkout. So doing like a preloaded checkout link is sort of the easiest way.
Nice. And this worked recently. What was the sort of space this worked in? Was it cosmetics?
Worked in jewelry.
In jewelry. Very cool. Yeah. And I guess it's always good to pick products that you have good margin on as well, right? Especially if you're overstocked or anything like that, obviously.
Yeah. What we actually did was we took a product that does work well, but we're having a hard time sort of like moving it on its own in ads. So it's like when people buy this product, they really love it and the reviews are outstanding, but it just like doesn't have that je ne sais quoi to work in a Facebook ad. So adding it as the sort of single SKU upsell, kind of opened it up where people are like, yeah, obviously I want that thing. And then gets as more sort of purchases coming through, more reviews, which then makes it easier to take it back eventually to pre-click by itself. I
think you mentioned this, but on the page, where are the places that it's mentioned? And is it mentioned in the ad as well?
No, so when we started testing it, we didn't mention it in the ad at all. We've only recently started doing that since we kind of proved it worked as an upsell, but originally it was just in the hero space and then very bottom of the page, the offer space. So just like immediately when people came through onto the page, they saw it. And then if they kind of scrolled through, went through all the information, I love a lot of CTA buttons that link out to an offer section on a long form page. So any other place they went, they'd be linked to the bottom. And of course, like a ton of urgency of like, this is a limited time offer. You can't actually get this pricing on this unit if you navigate away from this page, that kind of thing.
And I like that this is something any one of our listeners can pretty much do if they have the right SKUs or the right products without any significant technological integration.
Totally, yeah. I'm getting like very meta, breaking the fourth wall again, but it's like if you are a very small business owner just starting up, like this is a really easy thing for you to just post organically as well. Like, hey, I have this really cool product that you guys like for a limited time only. You can get this secondary product that people also really like at this price. Really easy thing to just throw up on a story or a reel for free on your organic channels. And yeah, it'll probably make a bit of a difference too, because it does add that like extra bit of urgency.
And value where we're, as you say, the season of e-com that we're in right now, where you got to meet your customers where they're at when they're feeling the pinch in other parts of their lives.
Yeah, totally. That was I guess it's been a big motivator for like finding these upsell journeys that work for different accounts at Pilothouse. Just because, we want to make sure we're being as efficient as possible with the traffic that we're able to sort of attract in the classic like summer e-commerce. Some products are like going absolutely gangbusters, and then others is like, why would anyone purchase that?
All right, so that's the pre-click single SKU upsells. Let's talk a little bit about hacking basic in-cart upsells. How do you recommend brands think about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I see with this one is being really generic in like an in-cart upsell setting. And also stop, like I'm literally begging you guys, stop putting really expensive random products in there. I know it's like sometimes feels like, oh, this is a bestseller, so we'll put it in there too. But this person has no context, and they also were not looking for that product because you probably pushed it everywhere on your site. So don't throw things like that into your in-cart upsells. Sort of matching them best for obviously the product they actually have in their cart, best practice. And I think too, keeping it to these like, we often call them like cart builder products. So if you sell like a coffee maker, a cart building product is the filters that have to go in that. It's just not going to break the bank by adding it on to the purchase. But it's like, yeah, something else, and it gets that AOV up and it gets that kind of UPT up as well. But yeah, really try to think about like what is the actual threshold of money that someone is going to be willing to part with very quickly.
And then just technically, are we talking, is this a native function? I haven't actually built out Shopify in a while. Is this a native functionality of Shopify, or are we using an app for these in-cart upsells?
Yeah, I definitely recommend, like there's a ton of great apps out there. You can do it like natively in Shopify. It's just typically with an app you have more like say and control. You can kind of like if someone adds A to the cart, then they'll see B, C, and D, that kind of thing. So it just makes it easier to track and have a bit more finesse with it, other than just like painstakingly adding. Like I said, there's like weird big best-selling products. It's like I'm not spending an extra $300 in the last moment.
I think this might verge into the bundling conversation, but I recently checked out at True Classic Tees, and I think they have a pretty much fully custom solution that like really gamifies the thresholds that that gamifies the discounts and the thresholds, and they really they really sort of emphasize bundling and building your cart, and the way they gamify it I think is pretty cool. Have we ever experimented with platforms that do a little bit more of that gamifying or laying out the levels of when you can reach certain discounts?
Yeah, definitely. This for me mostly harkens to like tiered based offers. I feel like there's a lot of like gamifying and fun things you can do in the cart to get people to an AOV to unlock like a discount. But True Classic is a great example of like it's like the product is really natural. Like you won't have to do as much testing to see what product. It's like obviously it's just shirts. So it's going to be like different packs, different colors, that kind of thing. So really experimenting with like how they're presenting it is very smart.
And just like the gauntlet at Winners, impulsy items. Impulsy, fun, small, wouldn't it be nice to have kind of things.
Yeah, oh, might as well just add that to my cart. I'm the worst for that. Like when I'm shopping, I feel like I like can execute upsells very well because I'm often victim to upsells. And it's just like, yeah, I might as well. Why not? That's like, I think the number one thing, especially you can do it with apps too, like for in-cart upsells, adding like a point or two on the product and like just getting rid of any objections is also really smart to do in your cart.
You mentioned the jewelry example. Maybe in that one, like what metrics are you looking for to really determine whether you can scale one of these? Aside from some of the basic business metrics, like from the ad side, what metrics are we looking for to scale?
If we're looking like strictly at ads and how they're performing and how creative's performing, definitely just going off of ROAS for something like this and just seeing like, am I increasing the amount of money I can make per session on this ad? And also looking at click-through rate when you start to mention the upsell in ads. Obviously, if I have this product that works really well, like I feel like a notebook's a good example. I have a notebook that I have a fully like designed funnel, and then I'm upselling you a pen, which is also classic, like sell me this pen. But I'm upselling you that pen. If I am running ads that show just the notebook and getting a better click-through rate than showing an ad that's like, oh, you can get our best-selling notebook plus a discount on this pen, then I know that it's not really sticking and people don't want it and there's no traction. So I think it's almost like the opposite, where you're looking for negative KPIs on the like upsell version of things. And it's like if it's just working better, just a notebook, no pen, then it's a pretty clear signal. It's probably not, the adoption rate's not going to be high. And then on the other side, like looking at landing page performance, definitely just looking at like EPC, which is earnings per click. So trying to really blow up the amount of money you're making on each click, which sounds like really simple and really easy. It's like, why don't we all just do that? Why don't we all just make more money per landing page visit? Easy.
Yeah. Then we spend. That's how the world goes around. Well, nice. Thank you for coming on and telling us about this. I hope we get some listeners out there testing some upsells that they maybe haven't tested before, either pre-click or in the cart. I always like to check in with you on any memes you're enjoying these days. I would say my favorite meme these days is Fully Conscious Baby. Have you come across Fully Conscious Baby yet?
Yes, I definitely have. That one is really tearing me up. It's so funny. The other one is that it's just the audio that's like, show it to me, Rachel. Send it to me, please. I literally was banned by my partner from saying it because I was saying it like subconsciously the other day on repeat. It's so funny. And then when it's relevant, it's like a cheeky little surprise. But yeah, I love that. I feel like for some reason that audio, that woman is like very relevant in my everyday life.
I just can't believe how quickly Donghua Jinlong glycine has faded from our lives. That was for like 3 weeks. I was just like, where else would I get my industrial and consumer grade glycine from but Donghua Jinlong? I was like, is that Chinese propaganda? Is that why we can't have why we can't have nice things?
I do love when people talk about banning TikTok, and then something like Fully Conscious Baby goes crazy viral, and it's like, I guess you could take issue with this platform, but also like, this is the most unserious and maybe best thing that I get to see.
And this is like just the final point. I don't know if it was you I was talking to, but I think everyone, we're not talking so much about the potential looming TikTok ban right now. But to me, and I forget this other person I was chatting with, it really feels like one of those vibes that could just drag on forever. Like it's going to be so hard for them to make a definitive, okay, it's off the App Store now. It's going to be tied up in litigation well after the next US election, although it was Trump originally who wanted to ban it. So I don't see it as being a realistic issue personally.
No, I don't. It might have been us talking about it. I don't think a lot of people actually do feel like it's a realistic possibility for it to be banned. And yeah, you're totally right on the money where it's like going to be a conversation for a long time, but very little action. Classic American politics. We'll be hearing about this for years to come and nobody will ever do anything.
Nice. Well, I know you have a bit of politics in your background, so maybe we can do a little political special as the political campaign ramps up.
As the ads start to roll in.
Yeah.
I'll start talking about the horror show that is.
Yeah.
Those US election ads.
Well, it's not any better in Canada. Let's stick to business. Aves, great to chat with you as always. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're not getting the D2C newsletter, you can subscribe for free at directtoconsumer.co. And if you want to learn more about Pilothouse's all-killer, no-filler services, take off to pilothouse.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.